Hello, everybody. I'm Joshua Haberski, Chief Executive Officer of the Premium Cigar Association. It's not quite St. Nicholas Day or Christmas, but this announcement feels like it. Many months in the making. I'm joined with Ricardo Carioni, our Director of International and Education, and the preeminent Nick Hammond, author extraordinaire. Nick, let's let the cat out of the bag. We've been teasing it for months. I'll give you the honor of telling folks what we're doing.
Oh, wow. Thank you, Josh. That is an honor. And yeah, we've been trying not to let it out the bag, but also not able to keep it a complete secret because it's just too good. And that you can see I've got a big smile on my face. Amazing news. So those of you who don't know me, Nick Hammond, author of Around the World in 80 Cigars. The first two volumes, well, I can tell you now that there will be a volume 3. And it's going to be a special edition in collaboration with the Premium Cigar Association. It's going to be called Around the World in 80 Cigars, The American Dream. And I'm so happy because I'm going to be heading off to find out what it's like all over the USA, how you enjoy your cigars, where you enjoy your cigars, the culture, the traditions and the people. And it's going to be starting pretty damn soon in the new year, and I can't wait to get going.
Yes, and we're excited, for this project. Ricardo and I have been working kind of to schedule some things in the onset of it. The structure is going to be 16 chapters, 10 of which will feature U.S. retailers or U.S. retail events, 5 manufacturers, and then a dedicated chapter on the largest premium cigar trade show in the world, which is the PCA trade show in New Orleans. Also, we're excited to have Nick presenting at this year's trade show. And we'll talk a little bit more about the progress of the book in April in New Orleans. Ricardo, I want to bring you in on this. You've been instrumental. Your thoughts on the project?
Look, it's a tremendous privilege, really, to be able to share with everyone what this project means and what we envision. I feel that it beautifully unites storytelling, it brings culture, and truly our industry's heritage. I mean, it's a collaboration that it represents what we feel is an exciting evolution from the PCA standpoint in terms of educational mission that we are on. It really places the cigar culture where it belongs, which is, in our view, in the realm of literature, really. History and global appreciation. So it's something that we needed. I think is the industry's moment. We're living a renaissance in the cigar world, if you wish. And, consumers are more curious. The culture is more vibrant. And ultimately, the community is getting more connected than ever. And I feel like the PCA is in a position to really strengthen, right, its commitment to education. It becomes, ultimately, this book, a pillar, important pillar, I would say, a cultural ambassador, if you wish, which transcends policy, transcends retail. It awakens a deeper understanding of who we are as an industry in the United States and globally. Ultimately, I think stories have that power to really change perceptions. And we think that this book will allow us to tell that story beautifully, thoughtfully, and authentically, the way Nick, only he can do. I mean, I've always called Nick the British voice of cigars. Remember, that was the nickname for many years ago. And now I think it's a voice of cigar as a whole. So no, we are tremendously excited and honored that we can do this together with you, Nick.
And practically speaking, I mean, the book itself, it interconnects with a lot of the other projects the association has been doing. I mean, it's going to be a required reading for the FIU course, on luxury cigar marketing. And it's a way to have something that lasts the test of time. And Nick, do you have some of your previous editions there to go, folks? I know we're releasing the draft cover in a press release a little bit later today, but yes, I mean, the quality, and I think it's also important for retailers to know that we're going to include 10 folks, and they should reach out to Maria Cervantes if they're interested in participating or in this project, or to Ricardo. But, we're going to have a digital site that will feature 80 cigar lounges to kind of keep with the theme in the digital edition. This will be, available digitally as well as audio and the print version. But Nick, you've been so kind to us in working in this project. We want to get your books into the United States retail market. And I think for retailers that aren't even participating in the digital 80 version highlight or the 10 chapters, they'll have the ability to carry these books, and it'll be a something that they can keystone. So again, it's a win-win of getting the stories of the cigar industry. Retailers can make money selling a unique product, and we are going to be helping facilitate the ability for our retail members to carry your edition 1 and edition 2. So I don't know if you want to touch on that a little bit, Nick.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, for me, obviously, it's a sort of huge surprise, a really lovely surprise, but a huge surprise. And maybe let's just take it back a bit. Not everybody knows what we've been doing. The first 2 books, first book came out in 2019, Around the World in 80 Cigars, The Travels of an Epicure. That's the sort of the aqua cover. Was really just me thinking, I want to do this purely because I feel it's something I would like to do for myself and as a sort of homage to the cigar, really. It was never a huge commercial venture or anything like that. It was just, I'm a writer. I've always been a writer, and I've written about lots of things for newspapers, magazines over the years. But I love cigars, always have done since, a fairly relatively young man. And so when I would be sent off to cover some strange event or learn about making Armagnac in France, or one time I was sent to Bosnia at the tail end of the conflict over there when I was a young reporter, I still had cigars with me all the time. So my stories would be, I was with these guys in the back of an army truck, and we had flak jackets on, and I had a couple of cigars. And we smoked cigars with the army, and, I had all these tales from all around the world. And I just thought, how nice would it be for me personally to write about my experiences? Because as a journalist, all you do normally is you write about other people. And you write in the style of the magazine or the newspaper that you want to write for. What you don't often get the opportunity to do is write for yourself in your own style. So I thought, I'm going to do that. Nobody probably will ever see it or read it, but I'd love to try it. And I wrote these stories that were in my brain and had been for 25 years. It doesn't sound quite right to say I really enjoyed them. I did. I liked reading them after having written them. They make me laugh, which is a bit sad because you shouldn't laugh at your own jokes. But I always do. And they are full of humour, they're full of colour, and they're full of life. And they're full of that love of cigars, which to me is the thing that gets me about cigars. Don't get me wrong, I love everything about it. But what they really mean to me is a place, and with whoever I'm with. Where am I? Who am I with? What am I doing? That's what cigars means to me. And I can remember virtually every cigar I've had in that special rotation of people and places. And, I can tell you that I smoked a Tatuaje in Kenya, or maybe when I was in Borneo, having been eaten alive by, fire ants and stuff. I remember firing up a beautiful Hoya de Nicaragua and things like this. That's in my head. So I wrote these stories, and they sort of came together so beautifully without too much effort. So that came out and was very well received. People loved it because it was unusual and there isn't anything else like it. And they like the fact that it's humorous and doesn't take itself very seriously. And you can pick it up, read a chapter, put it down, come back to it. You don't need to study it, And so the next one was, when are you doing another one? So yeah, we went through that. Had a crowdfund campaign to help me publish that personally, so that, if there were any royalties, they would come to me and not the publisher. And it just grew and grew and grew. And I've gone around the world talking to people and signing and selling. But it was only really because we bumped into each other in the summer, Josh, that and you'd interviewed me about the book, what, 5 years ago?
And over the pandemic.
Yeah. So, we had a conversation about it, and that was forgotten about. And, and then I saw Josh. I was like, hey, how you doing? I haven't seen you for ages. And Josh walked up to me, shook my hand and said, listen, I want to do something with you. And I said, yeah, great. But, of course, everybody says that sort of thing. He says, how about we commission you to go around America and write the next book? And this sounds too good to be true. So I promise you, I went home and I said to my wife exactly that. This guy, and she goes, shut up. I said, I promise you. But I didn't really think that you were going to come through with it, if I'm honest. But never a backward step, and here we are.
I remember when Josh told me about it, and it was just recently after joining the association. I started working with you, Josh, and when you told me about this project, honestly, the smile on my face, I was so happy. First, because I've had the opportunity to work with Nick for several years while I was based here in the UK.
Yeah.
I remember several events that we did promoting the book and letting people know about this. And honestly, your books, I have them in my one of them is still in my bedside because I love rereading some of these stories. There's some of them I recall from Nicaragua, when you're facing the bugs in Nicaragua and smoking those cigars in places that I know, places that I've been. So it's a personal connection. And I think as folks will be able to read about the venues and the lounges and the places that they know in the United States, it creates something very personal, creates a connection that really excites you as you're reading this, and you feel it like something that's a part of your own life and your own stories. And what's beautiful about it is, look, whilst the book it's focused in America, in the United States, it also, we see that it will travel right through different producing nations. You'll be highlighting the industry really from the soil all the way to the retail, to the venues. And that's going to be something that I feel folks will be able to connect with and learn from and enjoy, which is fantastic.
And, we talk about the global impact of premium cigars and that, the United States being the largest market, we're at the epicenter, but the importance of other, we were recently together in the UK market, and we were at the Boydsdale dinner, the three of us together. And I said, look, we need a little bit of that UK refinement in our style of things. And I think that this project kind of encapsulates that, your style, and preserving those stories and giving a renaissance to the U.S. cigar market in a sense of pride. That's something that is integrally important, as these NGOs are out there talking bad about cigars and tobacco and smoke and all of the above. One of the things in coming on board as the CEO of PCA is I have contended that we will never be bashful about telling our positive stories, the stories of small business owners of Main Street America. And then, of course, the producing nations, as Ricardo mentioned, the life that it brings to Honduras, Dominican Republic, and Nicaragua. And, we couldn't find anyone better to be able to capture all of that in your writing style. And so, this year, the projects that I was most excited about were the World Cigar Show, launching that. We had a lot of people say, oh, that's never going to happen. It happened. FIU, the luxury marketing cigar, of course, we had a lot of people say it's never going to happen. Very excited about those two projects. Next year, this is something that I'm extremely excited about because it's different. You either do something first or you do something that is better than everybody else and partner with the appropriate people. And I think that second category is what we're doing here, combining the strength of your writing style, your brand of Around the World in 80 Cigars with the network of the Premium Cigar Association. And, education has been a priority. International engagement has been a priority of mine, but also the public relations and public affairs of telling those positive stories. So I'm very excited about this project.
If I may, I want to just comment on that point because, this really matters. And it matters a lot, I think, also from an advocacy point of view. As you just said, Josh, I think human stories, they really have the ability, they have the power to change minds more effectively than purely a statistics. I think when we're able to highlight culture, heritage, and the artistry really behind premium cigars, that really strengthens, right, the narrative that cigars are artisanal. They're a handcrafted tradition. They're a culture. They're fundamentally distinct from any other tobacco product in that sense. And ultimately, this book really becomes a powerful advocacy tool that showcases policymakers and the public that the real people behind the craft. And that's what I think it has, that ability to not only entertain and enjoyment, but really effectively help us in our ultimate mission, right, in advocacy.
Yeah, well, the idea was, aside from letting me loose on the page for the first time ever, when I wrote the book, I was disappointed and surprised that there weren't any, I don't want to say serious, because that's not the right word. There are plenty of serious cigar books, but not, what's the right phrase? Like, I use the term cigar literature, like there's countless books on wine as an art form. There's countless books of photographs, or sporting photographs. Sport is an art form in its highest sense of art itself. To me, cigars are art. There's a very practical side to them, and the manufacture and then the growth is a wonderful thing, and is part of the whole process. But the ultimate cigar to me is an art form, and I was sad that nobody took cigars seriously. In that you could turn to somebody and say, listen, I know you don't understand what I'm talking about when I say cigars, I love it. Read this book, then come back and tell me that you at least understand why it has this allure. And so, if you were a wine buff and somebody came to you and said, listen, I just don't know about wine, can you help me? You would say, yeah, have a read of this. You'll learn a little bit about it. You'll get interested, come back and we'll talk. There's nothing really like that gives you the essence of why people do it. And as Josh, as you say, there's plenty that are very quick to talk about why you shouldn't do it, in their opinion. But what's intangible is the joy that you get from cigars. And I use that word for myself personally. It does give me immense joy when I smoke a cigar and I'm with cigar people. It's a spiritual thing in many ways. That sense of relaxation and sort of coming back down into yourself rather than being in this frenzied outside world, that 1 hour or whatever it may be of sitting down, going through the ritual of lighting up and tasting and inspecting the cigar is something that's profoundly important to me in my life. And that's why I've concentrated my work pretty much on cigars. It wasn't a commercial decision, I can promise you that. But it was because I truly, deeply love it. And I wanted to give a love letter to the cigar, to the world, not for any reason other than I felt it was something I could do really well and I wanted to do it. And so the fact that it's taken off and has taken a life of its own, it's just mind-blowing to me, and people send me a picture and say, Nick, I'm reading your book on the beach in Dubai, or somebody's got them for sale in Australia, and that just blows my mind, and that's what I think, the link between all of us. We're so different, all of us, in so many ways, not just in looks, but in cultures and the way we think and maybe who we vote for and all of that stuff that this world is obsessed with fighting about. But what we all do, when we find out that someone else is a cigar lover, we have an instant connection. And all the rest of that goes out of the window. And so to think that you can light a cigar and talk to anybody in the world who likes cigars and they will dig what you're talking about is a very powerful thing.
Yeah. You're a pioneer. You've been a true pioneer on this. And I love the way you say it. This is a love letter. And in that sense, I think worth highlighting that this book will be released across different formats, right? We're looking at print, we're looking at digital, talking about audio. So maybe even in Spanish at some point as well, so we can have it in English and Spanish. And ultimately, the goal is that we can reach the widest possible audience, right? We've been thinking, obviously, of events across the U.S. and ultimately culminating with a pre-launch at the PCA trade show in New Orleans. So ultimately, this is not just a publication. This is a multi-year cultural and educational initiative. And that's really, really powerful and pioneering, I think, from an association's point of view.
Yeah, it's a campaign, and I think it's long overdue that we work with people that take an interest, that have an expertise in the cigar culture, and facilitate those things. I'm a big fan of what the folks are Hand Rolled are doing, and we partner with them in the video form for the trade show. I know Aaron Sigmund has been doing some great books as well. I think that, to me, I look at this as the first step for a multi-year campaign. And, as we look at 2033, I know it seems like a far distance away, but, I'm going to be advocating with our board of directors that we, memorialize the stories of the cigar industry as we approach our 100th year anniversary as PCA, as being one of the incubators for a lot of this thought, whether it's in reading form or visual form, the public affairs side of things. And that's why, this is essentially a press conference. Yes, we're announcing the third edition of Around the World in 80 Cigars, the American Dream with Nick Hammond, but it's also an announcement of the PCA making a commitment towards the positive public relations of the premium cigar industry.
Yeah, for me personally, this project, it's deeply meaningful. This is something that, cigars, as you said, Nick, as well, it's about human connections, right? It's about the stories that are shared, the friendships that we all form, the places that we discover. And in that sense, this book really captures that essence. And honestly, it's an honor for all of us at the PCA to help bring it to life.
Thank you.
Fantastic.
Great to hear you say that.
And, it was one of those great things. I know we only met briefly and saw each other from stage at the Boydsdale Awards.
Yeah.
But I think that we would be remiss if we didn't thank Ronald and the Boydsdale team for a phenomenal event. It was great to see, both of you present the awards. I was, honored to receive the award for Cigar Guardian of the Year, which it's funny. I feel I have a sword in my office. I want to get a shield next.
Definitely.
But, it was truly breathtaking to see the cigar industry, some of the greats of the cigar industry gathered in the UK. I know that the folks there have been fighting a lot of issues at the government level and doing a good job at asserting that. And, I emphasize there that we want to be a helpful partner in a lot of that as we look at, this global impact, the positive impact of premium cigars. And I was fortunate to the week before be at ECMA in Strasbourg, meeting with members of the European Parliament and the Paul Varakis, who does a great job. So it's really a good time for the premium cigar industry, where a lot of us that, have been disconnected by distance, sheer distance. Everybody's in their own, fiefdom or territory. We're becoming a lot more interconnected, and projects like this help facilitate that and help, and events like the Boydsdale event also help facilitate that. So I view it all as being part of a larger plan. And I'm grateful to be, involved with this project with both of you.
Thank you. Well, grateful is the word I was going to say. I come to this with a sense of immense gratitude, not only to you for thinking of me, but to the cigar for the life that it has given me, and that sounds a bit far-fetched, but I really do feel that, if it wasn't for cigars, I wouldn't have met some of my dearest friends, and I wouldn't have traveled the amount of places that I've traveled and forged the friendships and relationships and done the things that I have. So gratitude is what we come to it with, and an immense excitement looking forward. And you're right, we've been quiet for far too long about the good things that we love, and that's why in the UK we respect the industry in America, which is why I'm so excited to really get underneath the skin and see what it's like, because I've watched it from afar for so many years and thought to myself, I wish we could have a little bit of that over here. I flew into, can't think where I was going a couple of years back. I think I flew to Minnesota, and between the airport getting to my hotel, we went past 4 cigar shops. There isn't 4 cigar shops between where I live and London. So it blew my mind. And, to have that event the other night with Ranald, who, is an absolute pioneer in his own right. And to think that the likes of Christian Aroa and Pete Johnson, who is he's an absolute rock star as far as I'm concerned. These guys are rock stars, and I sort of used to watch them with awe and read everything and just think that's so cool. I wish we could get them over here. And suddenly there they are in London. I think it's so powerful that we combine our efforts. And to think a little Englishman from the countryside could go over and around the US and see some of your amazing places. And I know what an incredible country it is. And I'm just like a kid in a candy store. I really can't wait to get going.
Indeed, I think the word, and I think we all share that, it's gratitude, right? It's that gratitude to have this opportunity to do this. I'm actually joining this call here from Boysdale, where we actually had the event. And Ronald has been so generous, really facilitating and supporting us and allowing us really to champion our industry from here. But I also think there's another word that comes to mind to me. It's responsibility. The United States is the largest leading market in the cigar world. So with that leadership comes a lot of responsibility, the responsibility to take the leadership, to bring that to the rest of the world. I lived 17 years in this country, and you're right. I mean, now that I'm spending more time in the US, that vitality, that vibrancy that the industry has is something that we need to export and interconnect with the rest of the world. So gratitude and responsibility and happiness really are the three elements that fulfill us in this project.
Well, guys, I know that the press release is going out in 2 minutes. I want to just thank you both again for, embarking on this project, as well as the rest of the PCA staff and the board of directors of seeing the vision of what this will become. It's going to be an exciting project for 2026 and 2027. If you are interested in getting involved with the book, please reach out to Maria Cervantes or Ricardo. And we look forward to hosting you, Nick. I know I will be with you in New Orleans. Ricardo will be with you at Puro Sabor in Nicaragua as you start the process of the book. But thank you again for this partnership and working with us on such an important project.
Thank you, guys. I'm deeply honoured. I hope I can live up to the job for you. And Ricardo, let's be good to join forces once again, my friend, and see what mischief we can create.
Really looking forward to it, Nick. I'm very, very excited, very, very happy. Look forward to seeing you very shortly in my very own Nicaragua and embarking on this journey. So thank you very much, Josh, as well, for the opportunity, and to the rest of the team, Maria and everyone who's behind this. And everyone's gonna play their role to make sure that this comes to fruition in the most successful way at the end of the day to support our industry and support our members.
Sounds great. Thank you all.
Thank you very much.
See you soon.
See ya.